If you're struggling to make your dream happen, I would wager that you're working too hard to make it happen. Now, before you totally write me off, I invite you to listen to this episode and just have a conversation with me in the sense of you listening, and then afterwards I would love to hear your comments and thoughts, but I want to build a case for why you're working too hard to make your dreams happen. Let me start by telling you a story. Continuing off of last week, I shared how I'd won this songwriters competition and all the things that came from that. But where I left the story off is that soon after that competition, COVID happened. My teaching studio slowed way down. And after a lot of prayer and thought, I decided, you know what, I'm going to close this down because my dream is to be a musician and an artist and a recording artist. So I closed everything down so that I could have time to focus solely in on songwriting and music production. And I put my head down and my nose to the grindstone for the next couple of years and really duked it out with this thing. And it was a good journey. It was a fruitful journey in the sense of I learned a lot, but it did not end where I wanted it to end. It did not go where I wanted it to go. After 2 grueling years, where I ended up is I was burnt out and I had no love or joy for music anymore. I didn't even want to look at the piano or play it. And that's when I started to look at my life and be like, what is going on here? Why do I not even love the thing that I've loved the most in life? The thing that's brought me a lot of joy over life and has been an emotional release, a place for me to just go and relax. Why is it all of a sudden not my dream anymore? It's not something that I want to pursue anymore. And so that's taken me on a journey over the last couple of years since then to find a way to make that dream, to bring it back to life, but also to figure out how to avoid going back there. And so this is where this idea that you're working too hard to make your dream happen comes from, because I did it and very nearly killed my dream by doing it. So and maybe you can relate in the sense that maybe you've ended a long work day and you just feel totally burnt out and you're like, I did a lot of work today, but what did I actually accomplish? It's kind of that sentiment there. And the idea or the theme that's going to permeate today's episode is the Pareto Principle. And if you're not familiar with that, it's this idea that 20% of our work gives 80% of our outputs or our success, or drives 80% of our results. Just this idea that the 20% really matters. And I've been, especially over the last couple months, been really trying to dive into this idea of the 20% and making sure that I'm focused on that bit of work. Because what if the reason we're not seeing the results that we want and the progress that we want isn't because we're not working hard enough, but because we're working on the wrong things? So that's what we're going to dive into today. Let's get into it. As I've thought through the Pareto Principle and through my life and over the course of that couple of years where I burned out in songwriting, I see that I'm scaling a mountain of busy work. I'm replying to emails. I'm, building templates in my music production software. I'm, obsessing over lyrics. I'm obsessing over sound packages. I'm obsessing over how to more accurately use this plugin to get the sound that I want. But that's what busy work is. It's a trap, and it's a mountain of busy work that we don't need to climb. It's that 80% of work that doesn't really drive things forward. So why do we default to busy work? I think in some sense, if you're like me and you come from a family of people who are entrepreneurs and who've made something, a business that they run and that they operate in every day, you develop a sense, and you've grown up around them and helping them in that business, you develop this sense that your time is worth money and that you're trying to always be busy and always be working towards where you want to go. And if you're also like me in the sense that maybe you have like some ADHD or something, I've not been actually diagnosed with that, but I do find myself jumping from thing to thing. And maybe that's just a result of our social media and hyper consumption culture, where we struggle to really finish one thing before we totally finish one thing before we jump to the next thing. I think that could play into it as well. But it feels productive in the moment to be emailing here, to be checking our Facebook over here, replying to comments, doing things that, I mean, maybe they're building a little bit of a community, but are we really doing the core work of what we need to do? It's comfortable. We avoid the deep work that's going to actually drive this thing forward. For me in podcasting, am I just creating a quick outline for this podcast versus actually like figuring out where I want the season to go? What arc do I want to tell in the arc of this season for the podcast? And how do I do the research to create those kinds of episodes? Am I putting in that kind of work? It's uncomfortable to do that kind of deep, high impact work. And I think our society right now just justifies and glorifies hustle culture rather than effectiveness, unfortunately. This idea that we just got to get more done in less amount of time. And we don't really think about what does it mean to get more done in less amount of time. Because I think if we're really thinking about busy work and we're really thinking about getting more done in less time, it's going to be, okay, I need to find the pieces that are really foundational to this problem and attack those and really take those on rather than taking a piece off the top. I'm getting this picture of Jenga, and in Jenga, the idea is to keep the structure moving up as long as possible. And so the easy ones to pull are on the top. But in the opposition to Jenga, life attacking these problems, we want to find the foundational piece that's going to topple that tower the fastest. And so we want to find that one at the bottom that's holding everything up and jiggle at that one. Because if we do that, all that other busy work that we have above it that's easy to pull on and it's easy to move is going to fall into place if we get this one going down here. That's my theory and my idea, and I've developed that by studying a lot of other entrepreneurs and their lives and their life's work. I don't have personal experience with that yet, but that's what I'm trying to work on. I'm trying to get away from this mountain of busy work and move in this direction of finding the 20% that really matters, that's going to move this thing forward, and focus my attention there. I catch myself all the time, every day, doing some busy work. And I think I'm getting a little bit better at letting go of it and moving past it, but it still pops up. It's still something that I'm struggling with. So let's talk about some signs that you're caught up in busy work. Maybe you're constantly checking your emails and your social media. That doesn't need to happen all the time. Set a specific amount of time, check it once a day, and let it go. I've started treating text messaging, if it's just with a random person, as email. I'm going to get back to you within 24 hours, unless it's an emergency, obviously. But I've tried to turn as many distractions as I can and notifications for contact coming in off, or just allow myself one time a day to be exposed to that, because literally that's a treadmill that I could run on all day long. I could be in my emails all day long trying to stay at inbox zero. I could be in social media all day long trying to reply to comments and trying to just stay in contact with people all day long. I have to learn to set a limit there and say, okay, no more. Another one is spending hours editing our podcast or our social media content rather than just publishing it, getting it 80% of the way there and just saying, good, it's good to go. I'm sending it out. Don't fall into that perfectionistic trap. This is just, that's not part of, the perfectionism is not a part of the 20% work. That's definitely way off in another part that we don't want to be in. That's that downward cycle. Researching more rather than taking action. Sometimes, I mean, yes, like I talked about earlier, doing some research for podcast episodes and the story arc that I want to tell, that can be great, but it can also go too far into that perfectionism where we're trying to get too much. Part of it is learning what we can, sharing it, and then learning more and re-amending what we've learned. Not that we want to give false information, I'm not saying that, but learn enough to share in your episode, learn enough to move the project forward, and then step away from it. Understand the 20% that you need to know to move the project forward. We don't need to know the whole 100% right now. Part of learning the whole 100% is spending our energy on that 20% and slowly expanding so that pretty soon that 20% struggling with my words. I don't know if that's the right word to say, but that 20% basically grows to cover the space of what the 100% used to be. It's It's a really cool thought and idea, and it's something that I'm really trying to master in my own life. Another sign that we're caught in busy work is jumping between projects without clear focus. We're working over here, and then we're working over here. This happened to me, actually, today. I was working in my communication block, trying to reply to some people about, I just had some messages in Facebook Messenger, and I was replying to those, and that led me to this other thought, and so I opened up another internet browser, and I started researching and doing some work on this other thing. And maybe 5 minutes into it, I was like, what am I doing? This is time set aside for communication, for catching up with messaging and emails. What am I doing working on this other project? This is not at all what I set out to do. And so it's going to take time and it's going to take practice to be able to see where we're off track and where we're not giving our effort to that 20%. But we have to be really diligent in how we change our mindset and how we shift this to focus and pull it back into that 20%. So what does that 20% actually look like? For us as creative podcasters and creative entrepreneurs, it's creating high value content. For me, it is sending messages every day to people about podcasting and just networking that way, having organic conversations and organic growth, and genuinely trying to help people rather than just pushing a product on them. For me, it's creating high value content. Like I already said, it's sitting down and recording 2 episodes a week like this. It's sitting down and writing 2 scripts per week that I feel proud of, that I feel actually serve the podcasting community and actually help people who are looking to start their podcast or grow it. For me, it's sitting down and creating short form content that builds trust, that actually helps people, that talks about things. One short form content that I'm working on right now is about the Pareto Principle, and it's about this idea of spending our energy on that 20%, on the efforts that matter. For me, it is setting aside days to work on client work and dedicate my sole energy and attention to those projects to make sure that they're moving forward in a timely manner and that they're getting the time and attention that they need. On a more high level, it's just strategic marketing and collaborations with other podcast hosts. It's engaging meaningfully with your audience. It's you creating high-value content. For us as entrepreneurs, it's focusing on revenue-generating activities, figuring out how these are going to bring in a paycheck and how they're going to actually pay the bills. These are the 20% that we need to focus on, not the other things that just kind of create noise and just distract us in our life as we go. Successful people are focused on few high-impact actions that lead to major breakthroughs. They're not focused on all the little fires that they have to put out. Their attention is like a laser. I think this is a great analogy for it. They're focused on one small thing, and that small thing is foundational and pivotal and key to all these other things shifting and changing as they get that one small thing. Now, a laser can be powerful enough to really cause some damage or really penetrate through many layers of things. You can tell that I'm outside of my scope here, but I do know that a laser that is pinpoint is very powerful, can travel a great distance. But a laser that's been refracted and that's been divided up, it doesn't go near as far. And it's the same thing with our attention and our time and our energy. If we're trying to accomplish so much and we're not focused on the 20% that actually move the needle, then we're like that laser that's refracted and that's not actually getting to where it needs to go. So focus in. Let's talk about how you're going to focus in. That's what I want to do today, is give you an action plan on how you can identify and focus on your 20%. And I want to warn you right now, if you're anything like me, you're going to listen to this and be like, oh, this is great. I'm somebody who loves self-help. I love personal development stuff, and I love reading books. I love listening to podcasts. But at the end of the day, the thing I struggle with is actually implementing these things. So if you're serious about getting to your dreams and you're serious about actually making a change, then this is a plan that you need to come back to time and time again. Not because I gave it to you, but just because I want you to succeed. And in order to change and not do your mountain of busy work, but focus on that 20%, you have to come back to this time and time again, probably for a month, multiple times a day, to make sure that you're on track, to form new habits, to focus on these things. Because we've unknowingly been spending time in the wrong area, and it's natural, it's comfortable, and that's where we're going to tend to continue to go unless we really take control of it. Step 1 is going to be to audit your time. I challenge you to sit down after this episode is over, or if you're not able to right now, but sometime today, while it's fresh in your mind, sit down and write out everything that you do in your week. Take 15 minutes. Don't make it a long time. Don't make it big in your head so that you're like, I don't have time to do it right now. I'll do it later. Just say, I'm going to set a 15-minute timer, write down everything you can think of that you do in the week. And then I want you to identify what truly moves the needle forward in your week. After you've done that, ruthlessly eliminate all the other distractions in your way that hold you back from those things that you've just circled. Cut them out if they're not absolutely necessary to your business or to your daily life. Or, this is one that I'm working on and trying to figure out how to manage, is learn how to delegate these things to someone else. If it has to get done, but it's not moving the needle forward, but it has to get done for your business, for your life, for your livelihood, maybe it's going on Fiverr or Upwork or some kind of site like that and hiring a virtual assistant to do some of these things at a low cost to you, but they're getting done at a good enough manner that things are still moving forward. You're not slacking in life, but you're buying some of your time back to actually be able to do things that are going to move the needle on your projects. And then step 3, I skipped that, is to prioritize your needle moving actions. So those things we circled in step 1 and the things that we were trying to protect by cutting out and eliminating all the other distractions in step 2, now we need to prioritize those things. Give them more weight in your schedule. I'm sure you've heard the idea or the analogy of the glass jar and filling it with big rocks, little rocks, and then sand as you fill your week. If you fill your week with all that sand first, the little things, the things that don't really matter but can fill in all the cracks, like checking social media, like checking your email, like a lot of the busy work that we do, that's all we have time for. And we're like, we don't have time for anything else. Where did all the time go? But if you understand what is going to really, after you've audited your time and you really understand what actually moves the needle forward, you have to fight. Nobody else is going to fight for this. Nobody else is going to come in and help you build this. You have to decide, this is what I want to do. This is what I have to do. So you have to prioritize your needle moving actions. Just focus on those and do not let them out of your sight that week. For me, this has been helpful. My business coach gave me a spreadsheet that kind of gamifies it, and I get to check it off as I get it done. And so then I build up points throughout the week, and I'm trying to get to a certain amount of points by the end of the week. And the only way I get points is by actually doing these actions that are needle movers for me and my business and my podcast. So if you're like me and you need that kind of a system, set it up, make it happen. But prioritize your needle moving actions and make it happen. Step 4 is set up systems for efficiency. This is going to be things like batch recording. For me, that looks like on Mondays and Tuesdays of the week, those are my content days. And so I'm just creating content on those days for the podcast. I'm recording podcast episodes. I'm writing scripts. I'm making reels. I'm scheduling reels. Those kinds of things happen on Monday and Tuesday, and then I can let them go. This is the beauty of working on the 20% is you know what you need to get done to move the needle forward. And so you're not worried about, did I get enough done today? Am I moving in the right direction? Because you've already identified these are the things that are going to take me from A to B, and I've spent time doing them so I can step away knowing and being at peace that I've done enough for today. Tomorrow's a new day, and I'm going to do it again. So set up those systems, batch recording, like I was saying, got on a little bit of a soapbox there. Any kind of automation that you can add to your system, like scheduling your posts for social media instead of getting on social media every day to post, just scheduling it so you don't have to think about it. And time blocking, which I already referenced as far as my days. Mondays and Tuesdays are content days. Now within there, I do block even further. I have first thing in the morning, I do a communication block so that I can get everybody communicated with and keep up on my communication and follow through. That's a big part of moving the needle forward is relationships with other people. We can't just throw our relationships away. And so making sure that I communicate with them. Other time blocking, I mean, you guys get the point. I'm not going to belabor that, but just If you need more help on time blocking, I want to refer you to the interview I did with Carl Poulin. You can find that a few episodes back, and go check out his YouTube channel. Fantastic time guru. He's going to help you figure out how to do time blocking. I don't need to go into how to do that. So that's it. I want you to take these 4 steps, do this action plan, and identify your 20%. It's going to change your life. Nobody's coming to help you, and your dreams aren't happening because you're working too hard for them. More effort isn't the answer. More focus is. Okay? So the call to action today is to just take 15 minutes to write down everything that you're working on and circle things that actually move your podcast forward. And then start cutting and delegating the rest. It's as simple as that. And I'm in the throes of it with you. I'm learning how to do this. And so I know that you just rolled your eyes when I said it's as easy as that, because the matter of the fact is it is as easy as that, but it's also so hard because it's not what we've done up till this point. But today is a new day. We get to choose something different. And the beauty is I'm choosing the 20%, and I hope you're choosing the 20% as well. If you're struggling, you want some support in this, come join the podcasters, the Facebook group for the podcasters journey. And I'd love to support you in there. I'd love to journey with you through this in there. Until then, guys, let's stay podcasting, and just remember you're closer than you think. You just need to shift where you're working. Focus on that 20%. We'll see you next week.